All right, guys, today we're going to be inspired by Kandinsky, and we're going to be reacting to sounds that we hear with shapes. So I have a piece of paper, I'm dividing it into quarters, and what's going to happen is I will play a sound on the smartboard. I'll play one here. So that's a violin. Okay, so for me, I just kind of made lines that felt the way that piece of music sounded. I kind of went up and down because I noticed a lot of that up and down with the notes in that song. Now I'm going to play another instrument and I'm going to move into another section on my paper. That might be kind of hard for you guys to hear, but it's a tuba. It's really low, so I'm going to make some low lines. And I'm going to make them thick because it feels heavy to me. The notes are very much the same in this. It doesn't have that same up and down effect. So I'm going to use these shapes that kind of feel the same. They're big and thick and heavy. Now I'm going to play another one, and then I'll show you how we're going to combine these. So this is the sound of bells. And to me, they kind of sound like little bursts. Now, yours doesn't need to look like mine. It can look very, very different. And we're going to cycle through a few different instruments like this, and then we're going to combine them. Okay, I'm going to put my sketch to the side, and now I want to combine these to make one piece of art. So maybe I'll start at the bottom with a rectangle that I used for my tuba. And I'll make some lines like this that were the violin. And what I'm going to do is, instead of making a line, I'm going to turn it into a shape by making it have thickness right there. I made a couple of dots, and then I'm going to put some of these little burst shapes over here. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I think it looks cool. Now I'm going to translate this onto a printing plate. All right, now I have this piece of cardboard and some foam. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to cut some shapes out. They don't need to be exactly like what I made, but pretty similar. So I'm kind of trying to replicate that design I made, but I want it to have some thickness. This is called a relief print. I'm building up on the plate, and it's an additive process. I'm adding something to it. This foam isn't super cheap, so what I want to do is kind of try to save as much as I can. So I'm kind of saving my extra edges because I'll use those for something else. So I'm making that wavy line that goes across. Oop, and I made mine a little bit too long. That's okay, I'll just trim it off. I'm going to use this to make a couple of my circles, so I'm sort of conserving and not wasting. I really want to save as much as I can. And it's okay if you have to make some minor changes because you're working in a different material. It's not always easy to make the things that you've drawn and cut them out. So like my little bursts are probably going to look different because I'm not using a pencil and paper, I'm cutting, and it's a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to put one here and one there. All right, and now I'm ready to glue. I'm just gonna lift this off one piece at a time. Now what I do need to be careful of is if I put the glue on this side, I would have to glue it that way. So you wanna put the glue on the opposite side you want to stick down. So lift, glue. The next step is going to be that we will stamp this. The fancy art word for stamping is called printmaking. So next week we will start printmaking with this printing plate that we made today. All right guys, now we're gonna stamp this plate we made. Again, the fancy word for this is printmaking. This is called a brayer, and I use it in printmaking to roll the ink. I'm rolling on the plate to get some ink onto the brayer. Then I'm going to roll it onto the stamp I made. I want to make sure that it's on all of the raised surfaces, so all of the blue pieces get ink. It doesn't matter if it gets on the cardboard, and I don't really care either way. All right, now all the blue pieces are covered. I'm gonna get a piece of paper. Before I stamp, I'm gonna write my name. I'm gonna turn it over, and I'm trying to keep that paper nice and clean. I'm gonna put it on here, making sure that it's straight. When I say making sure that it's straight, I'm making sure these sides have nice straight lines and that they're about the same. Now I'm gonna hold it with one hand and apply pressure with the other. So I'm doing the top half. Now I'm gonna hold the top half and apply pressure to the bottom half. And then when I lift off, you'll see, whoops, mine wasn't totally dry. That my design transferred onto the paper. And I can do this multiple times. So I'm gonna do it again. And you saw that my piece of foam kind of fell off. That's because I did mine without letting my glue dry totally. Your glue will have a full week to dry, so that definitely won't happen to you. You can see it's even popping up now. So same thing applies. I've written my name on this piece of paper. I'm laying it down. I'm trying to keep the paper clean. I'm putting this on straight. If I were to move this right now, it would make a big mess on my paper. It would just smear my whole design. So once I put it down, I have to just press and stamp it. I can't move it around. And then I'm gonna lift off and see if I can get it off without popping off any of my foam this time. Oh, nope, I didn't make it. All right, yours won't do that. All right, now we're gonna let these bad boys dry. I want you to have at least 2 that you feel happy with. I'm pretty happy with my 2. And next time I see you, we'll add color to these. Now that my piece is dry, I'm just gonna play around with some color on it. I'm using tempera cakes. To use a tempera cake, you need to wake it up with water. So I'm going to add water to it and then paint right on top of those designs I made. This is a fun way to add really bright colors to a printmaking project, and it also makes each of your prints unique because right now they all look pretty much the same. By adding color to it, you can make changes and make each one its own individual painting. So I'm just going to play with color, making sure that I'm using my paintbrush like it's a ballerina on tiptoes until I'm happy with my piece. And then I'll move on and do to my other pieces, maybe a little bit differently, or maybe I'll keep some elements that I really felt like were successful. Now these are super fun, bright pieces, and I think Kandinsky would be very impressed.